Hi there, greetings and salutations. My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz, and it is Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network, presented by our friends at Bailey & Wood. Bailey & Wood, of course, BAWFG.com. You'll hear us talking about them the very best when it comes to your mortgage rates. Once you get that home, you can do any renovations you need with Chateau Kitchens. Kick back in your brand new kitchen, enjoy yourself some Hoagies and hops, have some chili water beer. All encompassing here when it comes to this program. And Derek, welcome back from vacation.
Yeah, thank you.
It looks like you stopped at the Garanimals outlet and got yourself a cute shirt.
Thank you. Some outlets near Buffalo.
Didn't have irons, clearly.
This is the look now. Like the slightly distressed kind of look. It's summery. It's airy. It's very hot right now.
It is a little warm.
Need, as you guys have seen on the show before, and I think you have this problem as well, I need some ventilation from my pits. And these shirts are much better than, like, polos and even some T-shirts. I need to, like, make sure that there's airflow over this way because it gets a little moist. Did we ban that word from the show? I don't remember. I think we did. So, but yes, thank you for complimenting my shirt.
I'd like 30 seconds of my life back, actually.
Okay. Well, yes, you open the door.
Let's begin with this. Get right to it. The Pacers' season has come to an end. Mm-hmm. They lost in Game 7. You know, we don't need to tell everybody what happened. Everyone knows it. The big story that has come out since then is Tyrese Haliburton and Rick Carlisle both speaking about what has taken place here. Let's begin with Tyrese Haliburton. You know, obviously a historic run through the playoffs for Tyrese Haliburton and the Pacers, and really 2 quarters away from a world title. In the case of Tyrese Haliburton, you know, 3 and 9/10 quarters away when obviously he went down. The Pacers were able to still lead at the half. And then Oklahoma City did what Oklahoma City does, and that is take control of the third quarter via their defense, extend a lead that they then, you know, did not relinquish. And credit to Oklahoma City, but Derek celebrating the Pacers. And I'm going to start with Haliburton's comments. He had a very long, everybody would have seen it by now, a very long post on social media from his bed after his surgery for his Achilles. And I want to read one thing here that was of note to me. Very early in what's a pretty long post, he says, "Now that I've gotten surgery, I wish I could count the number of times people will tell me I'm going to, quote, come back stronger. What a cliche. This profanity sucks. My foot feels like dead weight, fam, but what's hurting most, I think, is my mind. Feel like I'm rambling, but I know this is something I'll look back on when I'm through this as something I'm proud I fought through. It feels good to let this out while y'all seeing the kid ugly cry." Derek, what jumps out to me is this, and I don't mean to – I'm using this based on my experience, not to like turn it into, you know, from that to something I've been through. But I have always said I will never forget when I was in the hospital and sitting in a hospital bed, and I got a voicemail from Shauna Lietman, who I grew up with. And it always jumped out at me, and I saved it because Shauna was, no offense to anybody else who I appreciated reaching out to me, Shauna began her message by saying, "I'm sorry you went through that." She didn't say, like, "Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it." She thought about what I had gone through. And to me, with Tyrese Haliburton, when he says there, it's such a cliche when people tell me I'm going to come back stronger. I understand what he's saying there because there's like this pressure to come back on everyone else's pace and everyone else's timeline. And I think it's important that Tyrese Haliburton learn or understand. And I can't imagine. I mean, there's no comparison, right, in terms of the public scrutiny of a bounce back.
Yeah.
But it needs to be on his timeline. It needs to be on what is best for his body, his mindset, his approach. And it would be difficult because you're expecting, you know, he's going to be expected to come back on the timeline that everybody else wants for him. That would be challenging. And to me, that was, while it was very raw what he had to say, it showed an emotional vulnerability that, you know, I certainly hope he's able to come back from.
Yeah, and he's expected to not only come back on everyone's terms, but to be the same player, which is maybe not going to be the case. I mean, obviously, a torn Achilles is not the career ender that it was 20, 25, 30 years ago, right? Whereas you tore your Achilles, you're
Dan
done.
Marino, right?
That's it. Yeah, it's over for you. But it's just I mean, to say that it's a gut punch is almost an insult to gut punches. You know me, Jake, I'm not emotionally invested in the Pacers or the Colts for that matter. It's just not how I operate. And that's not to be like, oh, journalistic integrity or things like that. I'm just not. Those aren't the teams that I grew up with.
Right.
I'm not emotionally invested. Do I want to see them do well? Heck yeah. Did I want to see the Pacers win? Yes. But like, it doesn't impact me in that way because I don't feel about them that way. I was numb watching the rest of Game 7. I was numb.
So were the Pacers.
I just...
And that's not a knock on them. Obi Toppin said it, and I get it. He was like,
yeah.
look, it just they checked, you know what I mean? It was too much.
It was awful. And I think what Brian Windhorst said after the game about how he had a visceral reaction too, and this is a guy that is a national reporter. He covers all the teams. He's covered umpteen NBA finals. It was hard not to. How, as on a human level, how could you not see what happened and have it impact you? I mean, even Thunder fans are probably thinking, oh, man, like, this kind of takes away from what we're doing here.
You know, I'll be honest, and not like anybody in Oklahoma's watching this show, right? But Shannon went to the game. She was in the arena in Game 7. And she said, and she actually showed me a video that she had, the Oklahoma City fans were very classy during that. They were quiet as soon as they realized what happened. They applauded him as he left the floor. Mm-hmm. I think they also understood and appreciated, you know, the circumstance of what they were saying. Appreciated is the wrong word, but they showed the proper respect to it, and I think, you know, that I appreciate that. But yes, the rest of the game, and you know, we'll break this down a lot, but the rest of the game, Derek, even though the Pacers did what the Pacers do of just scratching and clawing, and T.J. McConnell doing his best, and I just think, yes, there was Obi Toppin said it took the soul out of them. It just did. You could tell.
I mean, you could tell the way Obi played. Turner had his soul taken from him the entire series. I mean, he was awful. Just a really bad. And I don't want to knock him too much here because he was so great in the Cleveland series. He was great against Milwaukee. He was great in stretches against the Knicks. He's been a terrific statesman for the Pacers and one of the pillars of the last 10 years. But man, he was bad.
Well,
he was a net negative really when he was on the court.
Number one, the matchup was not good for him.
Yeah.
And number two, I'm still convinced of this. I don't believe he was ever fully healthy.
Yeah, maybe that's true too. So I mean, and Obi Toppin was a shell of himself. I mean, he and Turner were pretty much a walking disaster in Game 7. Not to lay it all on them because I understand what you're going through kind of mentally there, but. Can I say something else, at least from a positive standpoint? And this was going to be one of my takeaways had the Haliburton injury not happen. I've been following the Pacers for a long time, far before I covered them because of the whole Pacers-Knicks series. What was so cool about all of the Pacers' heroics at Madison Square Garden was that it was completely silent. I'm assuming there was a Pacers fan or two somewhere in the building during some of those games, but that never registered to TV. I have never, ever, in a high-stakes Pacers game on the road, seen the amount of Pacers fans and been able to hear Pacers fans the way that I was in the first couple of minutes of Game 7.
Right.
That was incredible. I mean, what an unbelievable... I saw yellow, or gold.
Yeah,
I saw it in the stands, and it gave me a lot of... This is going to sound cheesy to say. It gave me a lot of pride for Indianapolis. You see Colts fans on the road because... they have more of a national fan base, right, with the Peyton Manning thing and all of that. And the NFL, just in general, the teams have more national, wide-ranging fan bases. I thought it was an amazing testament to what the Pacers meant to Indiana that so many Pacers fans felt the need to be there in the building for a Game 7 in Oklahoma City, you know, a 10, 11-hour drive away.
I also thought, Derek, you know, this sounds like I'm being critical here of this person. I'm not at all. But who would you say is the most beloved Pacer of all time?
Well, it's Reggie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, with great respect to the ABA players, Reggie Miller is the face of the Pacers franchise. Mm-hmm. And in Reggie Miller's post-playing career, he obviously has been, you know, a forcibly objective national, you know, spotlight broadcaster, right? If you were to ask people within the Pacers organization and say, hey, does Reggie come around a lot? They probably would have said, he's been here. But not like other players that you see within, like, linked to, Dwayne Wade is still, like, around the Heat a lot. You see him doing things, with the Pacers. Derek McKee's at games all the time, and Rick Smits is there a lot. Reggie Miller, other than broadcast purposes and to come back for, like, David Benner's tribute, has not been around a lot, right? What I loved about this run in this series was, I don't remember, maybe I'm wrong, I don't remember Reggie Miller being on the sidelines for every game in the series against the Miami Heat.
Yeah, me neither.
In the finals, whatever else. For Reggie Miller to basically say, I am getting rid of the Superman costume, and I'm Clark Kent. And I'm coming back, and yes, I know I work at TNT or ESPN or whatever it is now, and I know I'm Mr. National Broadcaster, whatever else. I am Reggie Miller, Indiana Pacer. And I'm going to wear the T-shirt, and I'm going to wear the Jalen Rose jersey and the Mark Jackson jersey, and I'm going to sit with my kid, and I'm going to lead cheers, and I'm going to get on the little charter plane, and I'm going to fly to Oklahoma City and sit in the suite with everybody else from the organization. The recap to what you're talking about, the cement of the fact that Reggie Miller loves the Pacers, to me, was as special a part of this run as somebody who grew up in his era. To see him have to come out and outwardly say, I'm Reggie Miller, Pacer fan. I loved it.
Yeah, and it was also, just while we're on the former Pacers topic, kind of the trickle-down effect of it all, where everybody was welcomed back into the family again and felt like they were part of it, and the Pacers felt like they were being re-embraced too. This isn't to blame anybody, but with the way that the brawl happened, especially the post-Reggie, you mentioned, era Pacers, I think a lot of those relationships were fractured. Yes. I never once saw Danny Granger. I'm not sure Danny Granger stepped foot in the state of Indiana in the last 10 years.
Right.
And he was at one of the games, correct. Right?
Steven Jackson
and
was there.
And that meant a lot to people to have them. And Jermaine O'Neal has been re-embraced as he should. He was a fantastic player here. So to see all eras kind of embrace this team as well, and for the Pacers to give that back, I think that meant a lot to the fan base. I mean, there's nothing else to say that hasn't already been said, Jake, right? We're taping this on Tuesday. This is going to air 48 hours after Game 7 was played in Oklahoma City. The 2025 Pacers are the greatest in the time that I've been here 20 years. When I've been around Indiana sports, it's the greatest sports story of them all. It's greater than Butler's 2010 run, which is crazy to say, right? Because that was amazing. It's greater than the Colts Super Bowl run in 2006. It's greater than Purdue doing what they did 2 years ago. IU's football season this past year, I can't really think of an IU basketball moment, sadly. I guess the 2013 team, they were number one, the whole deal, and they had that great season. It's number one for me. And I think they gave this fan base a lifetime's worth of moments and memories. No, and I'm not talking just postseason. The 4-point play for Tyrese Haliburton at the end of the Milwaukee game in April. The Obi Toppin go-off game in Minnesota when they were playing shorthanded. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of all the great games and moments that they gave. But really what this was a re-embrace and a re-falling in love with this Pacers franchise. I think some people pointed to 12 and 13 as the run that healed the brawl. That didn't heal the brawl, because the Pacers fell off right after that, and there was a lot of animosity, and the Paul George exit and the Victor Oladipo exit, and the fans were really upset for a long time, even though the Pacers were pretty competitive, because they were sort of stuck in the middle. There was a lot of frustration. This was the team and this was the season that got everybody back on board. And now you feel like the way that this city felt about the Pacers 25 years ago is the way that it feels about them today. Like,
people are excited but again, that then comes the, where things get tempered, because you think to yourself, like, okay, so they were 2 quarters away, but man, next year's going to be, and then you're like, oh, yeah. I forgot.
Yeah.
And that leads to then, Derek, a lot of question marks about where they go from here.
Whereas it would have been self-explanatory, right?
Totally.
Had Haliburton not been injured, you re-sign Turner, you go into the tax, you run it back, you take another crack at it. And you're probably the East favorites, betting favorites going into next year.
Right.
So it changes so much. It changed, obviously, their chance at winning their first ever NBA championship, but now it changes the arithmetic for the next couple of seasons, because, as much as we want to focus about Turner, and we'll talk about that here, something else, Jake, that I've been thinking about, Pascal Siakam will be 32 and a half by the time Tyrese Haliburton comes back. This injury now messes with that window.
Totally. And you know what? I know Oklahoma City was a big reason for this, okay? I get it. when Haliburton went down, I was driving back from IndyCar with Nick Yeoman. When Haliburton went down, after the 5 minutes of silence or whatever, I finally said, this is going to have to be a Siakam game. Pascal Siakam is the guy that you went out, you gave max money to, you signed him because he's a veteran, you signed him because he's experienced, you signed him because he's a leader, you signed him because he's a champion, you signed him because he's been through this before. I know Oklahoma City's defense has a lot to do with this, Derek. I was disappointed in Pascal Siakam's, not his performance, but his energy. I thought he just kind of stood around a lot.
I think the energy was just, I'll give them a break because of what happened. I think everybody was just a little bit shell-shocked.
Fair.
You can never convince me, and there's no way of ever knowing this. It's one of the great sports what-ifs. You will never, ever be able to convince me that with the way that game started, if Haliburton had stayed healthy, that the Pacers don't win. You will never, ever
Derek,
be able to convince me.
It was going to be a Haliburton game, right? It was going to be one of those 32.15 assists, 3 turnover games,
And you could sit here and be like, oh, he's a home or whatever. He's in Indianapolis. The whole deal. Oklahoma City's really good. And
I think Oklahoma City would agree with that.
Yeah,
when he started launching threes from everywhere and they're going in, you're going, what are we doing here?
Yeah, you'll never be able to convince me otherwise. And what stinks about the game is that you wish that, yes, they fought, and, it was a 12-point game, right? And it was competitive really until the third quarter. That's when things kind of got away from them. You wish that the Pacers could have at least, the supporting cast, played like a B+, A- game.
Right.
Because they really would have had a chance, because Oklahoma City didn't.
Correct.
SGA was, 5 of 40 from the field?
Yeah.
They didn't particularly play well. They just were able to, the Pacers, a lot of people were saying, well, the Pacers have to muck this game up. Oklahoma City loves to muck games up.
Yeah.
They love to get down in the mud, and that's what they did. And the turnovers in all of the road games, Jake, were just awful. The Pacers played really bad basketball.
Well, you're going through that car wash, man. What do I say? The car wash, right?
And, the officiating, I know people want to make that a topic. Yeah. I agree with people that I think Dort and Caruso are allowed to do some things that other defenders in the league just aren't allowed to do. I don't love the foul baiting, and we've talked about that in other series with Jalen Brunson and guys like that as well. I don't love the SGA foul baiting either, but that's how they win, and they're really good at it. And a lot of their strengths mirrored the Pacers' strengths, and they were just a little bit stronger overall.
Can we get to our Hero of the Week?
Yeah, we do that.
I'm starving, and this looks really good.
Hoagie and Hero of the Week. It's brought to you by our friends at Hoagies and Hops. By the way, if you're watching this right now, you've got like an hour longer to do this. Buy one, get one half off steaks today, tonight. Tuesday, June, what day is today? 24th. I don't even know what day it is. Huh?
4th.
Yeah, 24th. Yeah, that's what I said. But Hoagies and Hops really enjoyed the Pacers run. Of course, they lean into the Philly sports teams, but they're an Indianapolis entity now. So they've always gotten on board when things like this have happened with great runs and, the Haliburton hot dog that we featured on the show, et cetera. So it was fun going over there and seeing people in their Pacers gear and getting ready to watch the games. They even opened early. They did a couple of Monday openings as well.
We have new chili water, too. Right?
So thanks to our friends at Hoagies and Hops for their support.
Chili water Landslide.
But of the show. And before we talk about the Landslide, this is the Always Sunny, the most unique Sando, I would say, on the Hoagies and Hops menu. So a lot of ingredients here. Stick with me. You got some chopped turkey. Got some bacon bits. Gets the protein out of the way there. Munster cheese, a really underrated sandwich cheese. Horsey mayo. I could drink the horsey mayo. I want to swim in it. Banana pep. Pepidoo pep. LT. Delicious.
Tomato. It's fabulous.
What did you guys do without me? Like, it was a pit twist last week? That's Rake's favorite.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a good sando, too.
You can finish before you talk.
Pit twist is a good sando, too.
Where were you? I didn't notice you were gone.
I was in Boston when you guys did the show.
How was Boston?
It's awesome. I love Boston. I hate all their sports teams, but what a great city. Your mom was messaging me. She loves the swan boats. And so I sent her a video of us on the swan boats in Boston Common.
My mom was messaging you.
Well, she saw some of the posts. She follows, and she usually just likes all the James pictures because he did preschool at Children's Corner, where your mom has been involved for years and years. And she said, she messaged, and she said, oh, it sounds like so fun. I love the swan boats. And I said, Mrs. Query, I have your lucky day. I have a swan boat video right here. and she hit the love button. So that's good that your mom knows how to do like the love emoji response. Things like my parents don't know how to do any of that.
Really?
And they're like 10 years younger. Yeah.
Now,
My dad knows how to do the thumbs up. So I get thumbs up a lot.
my dad does this. He signs his text, Dad.
Yeah.
I know, Dad.
Every time I answer the phone, hello? Hey, it's Dad. Yeah, no, I have caller ID. I saved your number on my phone, Dad. You don't have to do that. I've probably done that 200 times.
Right.
But hey, it's Dad. Just to let you know. What were we talking about? We were talking about the Sandos, right? And the delicious ones. Hero of the week.
No, the Landslide.
Oh, Landslide.
Chili water.
Landslide was actually playing inside Chili Water when I was making
Very
my
cool.
beer selection. So I was like, why not? Landslide. Back in the fridge right there, 42nd Boulevard, a Juicy Peach IPA.
It is great.
Nice and light for the summer.
Subtle peach to it, but yeah, the IPA. It's got the hops. It's great.
I usually don't like the fruit beers, but the
Not
Juicy
overly
Peach
fruity.
IPA and the blood on the tracks, the blood orange one, really good. Like just the right amount of fruit notes where it's not like overpowering. It doesn't taste like you're at
Right.
Macy's and spraying perfume in your mouth.
It's also a great looking can.
I don't know if anybody goes to Macy's anymore. Anyway, Hero of the Week, 2025 Pacers. I mean, again, we're not going to say anything on this show that hasn't already been said. I do want to say I think Jake did an unbelievable job with. I listened to the opens that he did, not only before, after Game 7, but before and after Game 6, and just having the pulse on what the city was thinking and feeling. You know, the thing about sports radio, and luckily this isn't really the case here. We have a lot of kind of homegrown people. And this is actually knocking against me because I didn't grow up here. The thing about sports radio is that in a lot of markets, you just airdrop these people in, and it's just real generic. And they're just talking about the team stars and things like that. And they don't understand because they haven't lived it. And you understand because you've lived it. You know, you've
Right.
seen the Pacers rise the first time around. And so for a 25-year-old, they can't possibly understand what those Pacers teams meant 30 years ago and how it translates to now. And you always do just a great job of tying all of that in and just hitting the right notes.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, you try not to feel old and dated. You know what I mean?
Sure, but I think what you want to do is kind of be the spokesperson for the fan a lot of times. And you did a great job doing that in this series and throughout this run. Because I think that your relationship with the Pacers is different from your relationship with the Colts. Not that you dislike the Colts or anything
Agreed.
like that, but the Pacers were kind of your first
Agreed.
real team, right?
Well,
And-
somebody said this best, Eric. It was not I that said this, and I can't recall who did. So I apologize. It might have been you. That the Pacers were this town's child, and the Colts are this town's stepchild. And that's not a knock on the Colts. But the Colts were born somewhere else.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's true. It's weird to think about it that way because they've become Indianapolis, right? But yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. I'll remember this team. We'll talk about this team for 10, 15, 25. People will talk about this team for 50 years. You won't be around. I might be. 50 years from now.
How old will you be in 50 years?
92.
Yeah.
Yeah. Vince and Charlie will just be like having kids and things like that. No.
I'll be 102.
People will talk about this for a long time. And I hope they're not talking about it because the Pacers have never done it, and here's how close they came. I hope it's not in those words, but I've heard this discussion happen. I think it's been Kevin Durant, who's chronically online, has talked about this, but fighting against this ring culture. And it's all about rings, and win the championship or it's meaningless. You can't possibly have watched this season and felt like this doesn't mean something.
Right.
That it's meaningless. The joy, the fun, the camaraderie, everything about it is special and memorable, and it's not just this like fleeting thing that's going to just float up there for a little while and then disappear. It's something that's going to be long lasting. I heard people say, and maybe you felt this way, Jake, you've been going to Pacers games for years. I've heard longtime season ticket holders, longtime Pacers fans say Game 6 was the best experience of their sports fandom life.
When I've been fortunate to be around a lot of great sports moments. The J. Edwards shot against Michigan will forever. I was there. It's unbelievable. Keith Smart's shot. It's Unbelievable.
Were you there for that?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, yeah.
But in terms of being there, I was there for the Edwards shot. When Ben Shepherd hit that 3 in Game 6 at the end of the third quarter that put the Pacers up 30, and then turned around and just did this at midcourt. That was the most organically spontaneous combustion of euphoria I have ever witnessed at a sporting event. And it's not close. I mean, like, I remember I turned around and Shannon was next to me, and I picked her up. I mean, not like,
yeah,
like I put my arms around her and I picked her up like in this joyous embrace, and then literally strangers are running into the aisles to high five each other. It was unbelievable.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
I think the only thing that would compare for most people would be maybe like the Joseph Adai go-ahead touchdown against the Patriots, right? Or maybe even after the Marlon Jackson. Yeah, so you knew because Brady was still getting the ball back and the Patriots getting the ball back, so then you didn't really know until you knew. But it's the 2025 Pacers, hero of the week, hero of the year, hero of the century. A special, amazing team, and we will I think we'll look back on this lovingly for years and years. I don't know, and this is me getting way ahead of myself here. Even when the Pacers win a championship, yes, of course, that will be special as well. I don't know if anything can ever eclipse what this team meant to the city. Yeah, because what it meant to the city.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. It can eclipse it, of course, if you win a championship, right? But like what it meant in the moment to Pacers fans.
Yeah, I mean, Derek, like I told you, I remember 2 weeks ago walking the Monon, and like two guys are running the other way, and as they're passing us, instead of like on your left, they pass, and they're like, go Pacers. I mean, it was just the whole city, right?
Because they recognize you because you're a celebrity?
No, because like they're saying that Pacers? They're just saying it it was the civic greeting.
Also, that's Jake Query.
No.
Holy crap.
No.
Oh, my God. Pedal faster.
That does not happen.
Get up there.
That does not happen.
Touch him.
Yeah, okay. Sure but you mentioned in terms of the future now, and that's what we've got to talk about next. Where do they go from here? And there are some questions now, and we kind of morph into that, which we'll get into on the other side.
Yeah, this will mainly be a Pacers show, so we'll continue talking Pacers when we return. It's Query and Schultz, episode, I don't even know. What is it, 242? 241? Vince is shrugging his shoulders. It's his job to know. He's still shell-shocked from the Pacers. I'll give Vince a little bit of a break. Stick around here on the ISC Sports Network.
Hey, which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap! Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Query and Schultz, presented by Bailey & Wood Financial Group here on the ISC Sports Network. Shout out to our friends at Bailey & Wood, proud presenting sponsors of this show. 855-350-HOME, BAWFG.com for our friends at Bailey & Wood Financial Group. I remember back in the olden times, in the Mike Dunleavy, Trey Murphy era Pacers, when Mike had just started Bailey & Wood Financial Group, and he had great seats for the Pacers, which weren't as difficult to get as they are now, right in the late 2000s. And he would often float me pairs of tickets so I could go to the game when I was just, broke as a joke. I was working at 950 and trying to just make rent every single month.
Now you're just the joke part.
No, I'm neither of those things now. Not broke, definitely not a joke. Okay. And neither is Bailey & Wood Financial Group, whether you're looking to get pre-approved for your home mortgage. It's now apparently a buyer's market right now, not a seller's one. And it's been a long time since we've been able to say that. So if you're looking for a home, still need to get that pre-approval for a mortgage, and then you can go out and buy that home with our friends at Bailey Wood Financial Group, or refinance. You can do that as well. Again, 855-350-HOME, BAWFG.com, branch locations all across central Indiana as well. Check out our friends Bailey and Wood. We really appreciate them being a part of the show now for, what is this, year 4? I think they've been part of it. Year 5, maybe? I don't remember. All the years run together for me.
But
COVID stuff was 5 years ago. You can believe that? It's weird.
what was?
Well, all the COVID stuff was 5 years ago. It's just weird to think. Yeah.
You know, Derek, along those lines, I think about like COVID, for example, and I think, gosh, it's been 5 years. 18 months from now for the Indiana Pacers feels like 20 years because, you know, Tyrese Haliburton has had surgery on his Achilles. He will be out next year. We know that.
Yeah.
He will miss the season. And now the question comes up of what is the best plan of attack here? You know, the real disappointment is the fact, aside from Tyrese Haliburton as a person, the disappointment as a basketball franchise is the fact that the East seemingly had an 18-month window because the window slid open, and standing behind that window and holding it open are the Boston Celtics with Jason Tatum hurt and the New York Knicks with, a new coach coming in and not knowing where they're going, right? The Cleveland Cavaliers maybe are standing looking through the window, assuming that they get healthy. But outside of that,
Orlando?
Detroit and Orlando, I think, are on the rise, right? But it seemed like that window was open for the Pacers to walk right through it. And now they have joined in terms of being there, just holding that window open. So the question becomes, when you know that Miles Turner's contract is up and you know that the Pacers are prepared to re-sign him and we're willing to go into the luxury tax and go over the salary cap to do so and keep this group together and jump through that window next year, now all of a sudden the question arises of what do they do? I will begin by asking you simply that. In terms of the direction, the approach of this franchise and the holes that you now know it will have next year, you would do what?
I don't know. I'm glad that I don't have to make those decisions because genuinely, Jake, I don't know. I don't know what to do. To me, it always made sense to bring back Turner because you had the ability to do so, and it's not like not bringing him back frees up like all of this money or anything like that. And you already made the pick to get next year's pick back, which, by the way, is a great deal now, right? It has aged tremendously in the week or two that it's been since that deal happened, just to kind of free up the money to get under the luxury tax or to be able to bring him back for $30 million or whatever he's going to command per year. But it's tough now because you had everything lined up. And now, as I mentioned, Siakam is going to be 32, pushing 33. By the time Haliburton comes back, you'll have several of those other players, including Nesmith. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. Nesmith, McConnell, Toppin would all be in their final year of their deals at that point. And, you know, at this point, now that you don't have your franchise player, do you have the luxury of having a $15 million per year bench guy in Toppin on the team, right? Like, do you think about moving off of that deal simply because if you're going to be competitive next year, do you have to free up that money and make a deal? Or if you're bringing back Turner, you know, there's so many balls that are in the air. And then what happens with Mathurin? You know, I still don't know how I feel about Mathurin on a long-term extension. But I can tell you, if you allow him to hit the open market, somebody's going to pay him. Somebody's going to buy in on that potential, right? So, or Jarris Walker is still kind of an incomplete.
So here's what I think. Here's the way I look at it. I think it's safe to say that if Tyrese Haliburton had not gotten hurt, that you re-sign Miles Turner, you bring him back, and part of how you do that is you probably move on from Benedict Mathurin, who's been a great player, but he's been a great player when, if you think about Mathurin and when he's had great games when it's because what the Pacers wanted to do was taken from them in that game. So he's the guy that was able to go rogue and go away from who the Indiana Pacers want to be. There's nothing wrong with that. But in a day-to-day, he was not somebody that was necessarily part of the way they were operating. He was the one piston that was kind of running off kilter, okay? He was like a basketball AFib. He took you out of rhythm, right? But now I think what you do, this is what I would do. If I were to look at it, I would say you can now use this as the boulder in the stream to redirect the direction of your franchise. You don't know when Tyrese Haliburton comes back whether or not he is going to be the same player. You don't know that. Mm-hmm. But I think a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, and I think that a known entity is a more valuable entity. And I think you take your chances that Haliburton will be a high-level player upon his return. And therefore, I think you re-sign Miles Turner. I think you use next year to incorporate Benedict Mathurin into starter minutes and work him into that offense. You then, the minutes that Mathurin was getting off the bench, give those to Jarris Walker. And now, when Haliburton comes back, you are running back what you did this past season, but you're doing it with two of your auxiliary pieces being that much more experienced. And you push it in for 1 or 2 years, and then you blow it up.
Yeah, I'm not against that plan, but we're still relying on a lot of unknowns, right? I don't know if it's ever going to click consistently with Mathurin, who always felt like a little bit of a square peg round hole.
Correct.
With this team, even though obviously he had some great moments, including in the finals. And I don't know what Jarris Walker is going to be. Jarris Walker might just be a guy. Jarris Walker might just be a rotational guy and never live up to being a top 10 level NBA draft pick. But I'm just glad that I don't have to make the decision. I think some of this will depend on just how good Andrew Nembhard can be in Haliburton's absence.
Right.
But
he slides over, don't you think?
Yeah, and I'm just interested to see kind of what they do this offseason to supplement next year, because they're coming off an NBA Finals run where you went to Game 7. The Pacers certainly aren't going to present it as, yeah, you know what, we're just kind of taking a break this year, taking it easy. We're just going to kind of cruise through and just wait it out here and wait for how. They're certainly not going to present it like that.
Did Miles Turner's play in the finals give you pause about?
Yes, it has to. It has to. And that's sad to say, and that's even maybe short-sighted to say. But when all the chips are down for him to have been – I mean, Jake, it's not that he struggled. He was bad. He had a bad series. He was a bad player. Even when the Pacers were playing good, he was bad.
Isn't part of that matchup?
Yeah, part of that's matchup too, but it's hard on the biggest stage to – have him be a net negative, which he was in that series. And that's not to take away what, he had a really good season, and he's had a really good career. And he's the reason that the Pacers even got to the NBA Finals. So I'm not diminishing any of that. But if you're asking me, does it weigh on your mind if you're Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan? Hell yeah, of course it does. It has to. They could say that it doesn't, but absolutely it's in the back of your mind. And now you're worried about Jake, like, the worst case scenario here is that you run it back the best that you can, right? You give Turner the $30 million deal, right? And so Turner's in his 30s on a $30 million deal. Siakam is halfway through his max deal, or close to that, whatever he's making this year. It's the next couple of years, it's a lot of money, and he's starting to go like this, right? And then Haliburton is a diminished player, and then you come back in 2026 with 2 albatross contracts. And Haliburton on a supermax deal being not the player that you thought he was going to be.
Right.
And I don't want to paint that picture, because that really is a crushing blow to what we just saw the Pacers were and the standing that they just had. But people have to be prepared for that scenario. If it I'm not saying it's going to play out that way, but I'm saying you have to be prepared for that being the scenario when you're making all of these decisions.
How was your trip?
It was great. It was great. Ashley doesn't like to be in the car with me for more than like 2 hours, so we've never really done. Well, certainly not with James.
Because of the weird noises you make when you eat?
Yes, I'm a pretty aggressive driver.
Okay.
Especially when I'm on a road trip, because I'm concentrated on making great time. And she's not an aggressive driver, and she doesn't like that when I'm like kind of not swerving, but I'm going in and out of traffic, and I usually don't let trucks in
Do you hang in the left lane?
No, not if there's faster traffic behind me. I get over for faster traffic because that's the law.
Right.
So I follow the law when it comes to that. I don't follow the speed limits, but I follow the law when it comes to the faster traffic.
How does your son handle the long trip?
He's an awesome traveler, and he loved it. Now, he had an iPad, but he also colored and did some other things. We played I Spy a couple of times. So it was fun. We went to Baltimore. We didn't really get to spend any time there because we just used that as a stopping point after the 10-hour drive through. And then we went to go see my sister in Stratford and go through my hometown. James had never seen my home. I hadn't been to my hometown.
So just out of curiosity, what was the motivation to go south towards Baltimore if you were heading up towards Boston?
My cousin and his wife, the Jock Boys. My mom's sisters, 4 sons, are all spread out all over the country. One's in Austin, Texas. One's in Baltimore. One's in Brooklyn. And one's in Santa Barbara. And so I thought, hey, we haven't seen Tim and Pam in a while, and their son Dylan just graduated high school. Dayton, Maryland was where they live, a little suburb. It's 20 minutes outside of Baltimore. Let's just stop there and have a soda. I have a Diet Coke with my cousin and visit for 2 or 3 hours, which is what we did. So what was important to me for this trip, Jake, is I'm in the car. I want to see as many people as possible while I'm in the car because usually we're just flying, and we're flying in and out. And we don't have a car. We don't have access to go to all these places to see people. So I saw my cousins, my sister, our in-laws, her brother and his kids. We saw my uncle and aunt, so Tim's parents who were in Cooperstown. So we tried to make kind of this be like more of a family-oriented visitation trip.
Now your son, you said like he's just like killing time in the backseat.
Yeah.
Now you said you play I Spy. Do you ever play Cows and Cemeteries?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it's a fun game.
Is it a cow or is it a cemetery? Or what is it?
No. So you're driving, okay? And you're on one, so in this case, your son sits behind you or behind
Ashley. He's on the
Okay.
other side.
So on the right side of the car, anytime that as you're driving, if you pass any farms and there's cattle, you count the cows, pick a number to, the destination number for the win, 100 or whatever. But then if you pass a cemetery, all your cows die and you go back to 0. First one to 100 wins or 200 or whatever.
Sounds morbid.
No, it's not morbid at all.
Did you make this game up?
Maybe my mom did.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like a game that you
How about
would have made up.
how about Ghost?
What's Ghost?
Another fun game in the car.
Does it involve death?
No.
Okay.
Ghost is where everybody in the car, you have an order. I mean, obviously, if there's 3 of you, boom, boom, boom. You start with a letter. Next person has to say a letter. But if you say a letter that spells a word, then you lose that round. You pick up a G. If the way you lose a round is either you land on a word, or if you throw out a letter and somebody's like, what word are you thinking of? Like, are you ultimately trying to spell a word and they can't name a word that is in the order that the letters have been laid out, then you also pick up a letter. You pick up an H. The first person to become a ghost, then you cannot talk to that person for the rest of the ride, or else you pick up a letter. So if somebody's out of the game, it's better when there's like 5 people in the car. But if somebody's out of the game, and after 30 minutes you forget about it, and they're like, hey, can you pass me a cheese and crackers? And they're like, oh, yeah, hang on. Oh, man, I just talked to the ghost. Boom, you're out.
Why wouldn't I just say like X or something like that for every letter, knowing that it's really hard to spell a word off of X?
Well, then I would challenge you. You can be challenged. So, like, if I say, if I start out and I go, okay, Y, and then you say
X.
Okay, what word are you thinking of?
Xylophone.
No, that's XY. So you're out. You got a letter. You're out. You have to. Do you see what I'm saying? So the rules of the game. Let's say it's me, you, and Vince. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll do it right here.
We're spending a lot more time on this than I wanted to, but okay.
I'll start out. S.
X. Oh wait, I can't do that because I can't. I have to try to spell a word.
But what I'm saying is,
yeah.
if you said X, then you go okay, and then Vince would say, "I challenge you."
Okay, gotcha.
And if you can't come up with a word there, then boom.
Yeah.
Now, meanwhile, if I say A and then you say S, then someone can challenge you and go, "You just spelled a word as." Boom, you're also out.
Okay.
Those are the 2 ways you get out.
Yeah. No, that's cool.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
How about the license plate game?
No, let's kind of. We got other things.
The
to
license
talk
plate
about.
game,
Yeah,
another
let's,
fun
Let's
one.
move on.
But that's not as fun as
Let's
it
move
used
on
to
to
be
the next
because
thing.
now states don't have their own indigenous long-standing license plates. Everybody's got these you know what I mean?
Yeah, all states. I thought Indiana was the only one that did this, but all states have these vanity plates
Totally.
and things
It's
like that.
absurd,
now. It's just,
yeah.
it's
Now,
like
here's what I
ridiculous.
did, Derek, while you were vacationing. I was at Road America for IndyCar. Beautiful day. It was like 95 degrees in Wisconsin, okay? But a beautiful day, Saturday and Sunday, perfect blue skies, all of it, leading up to Game 7 Sunday, which I was super excited about. Well, I'm on a scissor lift for the turn that I call it. Road America's a 4-mile course. A scissor lift, you know what a scissor lift is, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like 40 feet in the air. Well, they were handing out sampled SBF 50s, like Bailey and Wood or whatever. You'll be somewhere, they have koozies. A lot of places will here's a Bailey and Wood koozie, right? A lot of companies like that will hand out little things of sunblock at racetracks. I coated myself, saturated myself in SPF 50. Now, these are my legs.
Oh, my God.
Do you think maybe the SPF 50 I got was
the
not
product, wasn't up to
was
snuff?
not authentic?
Oh, my Lord.
Yeah.
Now, you were wearing pants for the broadcast,
I had
right?
shorts on.
Oh, okay.
Because it was so hot we were allowed to wear shorts.
Okay.
So I'm like, well, I'll wear shorts. I'll just completely coat myself in SPF 50.
Wow.
If you're listening to the podcast and not seeing it, you can't see this. But aside from the fact that I have perfectly sculpted legs, that is a little bit tender,
they
right?
hurt?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it peeling yet?
Here's what's weird. It's not.
No.
Now, let me ask you this. It's been a long time since I've had a sunburn. So they don't hurt just sitting still, they don't hurt. When I stand up.
Yeah, it's weird. It feels like it's tight on you,
yes.
right? It sucks.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
How long does that last?
At least a couple of days. We went down to Rosemary Beach a couple of spring breaks ago, and it was like a 70-degree day. And when it's 70 degrees, you're not thinking about it, right? And we're not wearing anything. And Ash got straight sun poisoning, and I got as badly sunburned as I ever had, and it took 3 days probably. It was hard to shower.
Okay, yeah,
it
showering.
just felt like it was like leathery.
So if the last exposure to the sun was, let's say, 4:00 on Sunday. Like Byron and I are doing our Turhan trip this Thursday. Will I be okay by Thursday?
Yeah, I think by Thursday you'll be all right. Do you have aloe and stuff?
Oh, I've been coating you.
Okay, yeah. There's some what's it called? Not afterburn, but there's this stuff that we have.
There's ones called Cool Down or something.
Yeah, something like that.
I've been
you can just
multi-coating.
you can really rub it.
That's pretty rough looking, isn't it?
Yeah, your legs have lost muscle mass. I feel like
that's probably true.
Yeah. They used to be more muscular than that, but that's just with old age. It's just with old age.
Do you really think they have?
I get it. No, I just said that because you're going to think about it for the rest of the day.
I am.
We come back on the show, quick hits, and
really
we will continue. Episode 242.
Because I worry about it.
On Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey and Wood.
Sorry, I'm still eating a sandwich. Hi, welcome back. Vince gave me the countdown. I was like, I have 10 seconds.
Yeah,
left.
what are we
I know
doing
I can do
here?
this, but it's Delicios bread. It's really crusty and bready, and I had to get it down my gullet in time for the start of the show. And of course, Jake didn't pick up on that because he's just out to lunch. You should have your next lunch at Hoagies and Hops, by the way, 42nd and Boulevard.
I'm reading my texts.
Time for our quick hits. Just kind of underlining how short the offseason is now for the Pacers because they played a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. NBA draft is this week. Isn't that crazy? Now, at least for Indiana, it's barely relevant at all because you traded your first-round pick to get next year's pick back. I think their only selection is 54th, and that's a guy that'll be on a two-way deal almost certainly, right? You would think. So it's barely newsworthy. I was actually going through a couple of mock drafts because I was trying to think, hey, is there anybody that might be drafted? I know there's no Indiana and Purdue players, right? But anybody that might be drafted that has any sort of ties to the state of Indiana or to IU or Purdue, anything like that.
Well, okay, let me ask you this.
I only found one.
Now, when you found the one, was it like, okay, or were you like, oh gosh, how could I have forgotten that?
Okay, I found 1.5.
Okay.
The half one I knew about. The other one has a direct tie to Indiana, Purdue, or the city and state of Indy or Indiana.
How high are these two?
Both second rounders.
Is one a transfer
Yes.
out of Purdue?
IU.
A former IU player, Tamar Bates.
Yeah. Tamar Bates is projected as a second-round pick.
Okay.
And the other one is Andrew Nemhard's brother.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm reaching for a tie-in there, but also played at Gonzaga.
I wonder, Andrew Nemhard's brother, how much does Andrew Nemhard help him? You know what I mean? Just of what Nembhard's done. Of like, an interesting story, Derek. I had Pat Knight on the show last week because Pat Knight was a scout for the Pacers, and he scouted in various ways. So I had him on to ask him about how this team was assembled, what they saw in different people. And I asked him, I said, who is the player that to you seemed like the biggest no-brainer and you were surprised other people were not more actively scouting him? And he's like, oh, Nembhard. And he said, I'll tell you a story. He said, when we, meaning the Pacers, when we would draft a player, we would send a framed jersey, Pacers jersey, of that player to their college coach to hang in their office.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
That kind of thing. And he said, Mark Few is the only coach that's ever done this. We sent him the Andrew Nembhard jersey. And like a week later, an assistant for Gonzaga called the Pacers and said, is there any chance, and we'll pay for it, we can get a second jersey? And they said, why? And they said, because Coach Few took that to his house because Andrew Nembhard's his all-time favorite player.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I never heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool story.
Yeah, very.
But my point being, Nembhard started like 135 of 140 college games. I mean, it wasn't like this guy came out of nowhere, right?
Yeah.
He had been a very good player at Gonzaga.
And Florida, too, right? That's where he came from.
Right.
And then he played at Mountford with R.J. Barrett and a ton of really great players, too. I remember Ryan Carr, who I know has been a friend of yours for years and years and years, the director of scouting for the Pacers. You asked that question, have you ever been in on somebody that nobody else was in on? I remember him coming on our show and just raving about Jalen Brunson.
Yes.
Like being like, oh, my God, he's an unbelievable leader. He'll have a 15-year NBA career. Like, I don't think anybody thought that Brunson could possibly be like a top 10 level NBA player, but he was – I mean, I remember thinking about, hey, should the Pacers draft Jalen Brunson because it'll help, like, their second unit culture and stuff? You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't thinking of him as a starter.
Ryan told me that when he had dinner with Jalen Brunson as part of his scouting trip, that it was the most impressive dinner he's had.
Yeah. And we had Ryan Carr on this time of year every year.
Right.
And I just remember him of all the players that he praised. And look, these guys, Pat Knight, Ryan, everybody gets it wrong sometimes, right? I mean, This is the same group that drafted TJ Leaf. And right,
well, they took Mathurin. Look, they took Mathurin 6 spots in front of Jalen Williams.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on Mathurin, right? I mean,
who's had a nice NBA career so far. No, you're right about that. But that Jalen Brunson one really kind of sticks out to me as far as that's concerned. Kalen Clark really struggling right now. 1 of 17 from 3 the last 2 games. Been overshadowed because of the Pacers and all this other, and they've been on the road. Both road losses for the Fever. They're just 6-7 now in the season. They're in Seattle tonight, so we're taping this. And
have you been to Seattle?
Play soon.
It's beautiful. This time of year in particular, most beautiful city in the country.
I know. I'm hoping, I started filling in last year on the Learfield radio network for Purdue football broadcast. They play at Washington.
Dude.
And I'm hoping Kelly Kitchell did not go on the Oregon trip last year. That's how I went on the Oregon trip.
They've got direct flights, Alaskan Air as direct flights, Indy to Seattle.
I think what we're going to do is, as a family, we're going to do the thing where you go to Seattle and then you get on the train and go to Vancouver.
Yeah.
That whole deal, because everybody seems to do that, and they always talk about how amazing it is. So I think we're going to do that as a family. But just personally, I think I might finally knock Seattle off the list. This year I've spent. I went to Phoenix for the first time, and I went to Eugene and Oregon.
Phoenix is cool
for the first time.
A lot of
some of the only time that I've spent in the Western United States outside of California.
A lot of
in my
fish
life.
heads out there in Seattle. You'll like that.
I know. I love that. Yeah, they're great.
That deep banana blackout too.
Deep Banana Blackout is more like a Fairfield County area band. That's where they have the most relevance.
They're huge reach.
But,
the 6 block area of Trumbull.
But thanks for saying that. Yeah, because Deep Banana Blackout rules for sure. Congrats to Alex Pillow. I did not see, as you mentioned, Road America is awesome. And the camping is awesome. And the weather was awesome. IndyCar can't control the timing, but man, to say that race was an afterthought with everything else that was going on would be
pretty tough.
Kind of an understatement, unfortunately. But I'll see what the numbers are. But Pillow gets back on track with a victory after things started to get a little bit interesting there.
Yeah, but Kyle Kirkwood's had a good year too. You remember Chiefs fan Steve?
Yeah,
Steve with Milton, the
Kansas City Steve.
Steve, yeah. He texted me at the beginning of the year and said, "Look, I've decided I want to start following IndyCar, but I need a driver." So I gave him a list of a kind kind of a sports analogy of different drivers to let him pick what. And I used NFL analogies. And Kyle Kirkwood, I said he's like the Minnesota Vikings. Like there's some promise there. Yeah. We'll see, whatever. So he said, all right, that's my guy, Kyle Kirkwood. And Kyle Kirkwood's been a really good driver for him. It's just that Palou has been able to keep him at bay.
Yeah, Palou's just been that good, and it's going to be really tough for anybody to overcome that start with what they've been able to do. We come back on the show. We will wrap things up next, Buy It or Bull Bleep, and we'll send you on your way. It's Corey and Schultz, episode 242 here on the ISC Sports Network.
Tonight.
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey & Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC!
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh!
Bailey & Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Back for a final time. Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. Time for Buy It or Bull Bleep. Brought to you by our friends at Chateau Kitchens. I felt for Stephen Moore. Stephen Moore was at a lot of the Pacers playoff games this year. Big, huge Pacers fan. Took Sam Agee, our old buddy from WNDE. Sammy and Stephen went to, I think they went to Game 6 in the Knicks series together.
Sam's still working for NASCAR, right?
Yeah, he's still on in D.C., married now. Great guy. I used to say great kid, but God, Sam's got to be mid-30s now, right?
But he still looks like a kid. Right?
He does. He has kind of that baby face for sure. But Steven and his great Chateau crew will take care of you with their in-home transformations. That's what they do, whether it be a kitchen, a bathroom, hell, a basement. I've done all three of those things with Chateau Kitchens.
Speaking of former guys that we know in homes, Caleb's been trying to work his way into my house for like the last month.
Caleb's in a house. Yeah, South Side, I think.
Did he buy a house or
he's renting?
Okay, still.
But still, he's living alone, I think, for the first time, which could be a good thing, could also be a bad thing. Could be a good thing as well. We love Caleb. I always want to, support him.
Caleb, the overenthusiastic intern, right?
Yeah, like the best way that I could put it is that I think Jake and I love him like a little brother, but he's like the little brother that we never wanted. If that makes sense.
That's fair. Yeah,
so, but he's probably watching right now. So, hi, Caleb. And actually, we got a call scheduled tonight. I got to talk to Caleb about something.
Scheduled?
Yeah.
He doesn't.
That's how Caleb is now. He's organized.
He doesn't schedule calls to me.
He's an organized man. He's a grown man now. I think of the kid on the bike that used to come out to our remotes, but he is a grown man now. ChateauKitchens.com, at Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook for before and after pictures. Let's get to Buy It or Bull Bleep. Statement number one, the NBA season needs to be shortened. Buy It or Bull Bleep?
No. Well, I'll tell you, the load management stuff is going to become more and more of a discussion because of the Achilles injuries that we're seeing. But no, I understand that for a lot of people, the NBA season doesn't start in terms of their public conscious until Christmas time. But I say no, keep it as it is.
Yeah, they do need to shorten it. And I just want to kind of nip this in the bud here. Like the whole, guys played every game every year. Load management, what's that? These guys are soft. Look, this can make you happy, mad, sad, whatever else. Players in 2025 move more, are twitchier. There is more involved with playing basketball now than there was 40 years ago.
That's the best
I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, and I'm sorry if that, that's not to diminish Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan and Larry Bird and Matt. All those guys are great players. They're unbelievable players. They deserve all of the legacy and the standing that they have. Guys right now, it's more physically taxing on their bodies because of the movement and because of how the game is played than it was in 1985 and 1995. Sorry. And so,
well, you also look, Derek.
Need to adjust to that.
30 years ago, Jason Tatum would have been a power forward.
Yeah, it's just it's just different. It's different. Guys can score from all over the floor. They're defending all over the floor. It's a different game than it was back then. And
I did feel bad, and I say this half flippant and half serious. I felt bad for Puma because Puma was launching. I believe that was a brand new line of shoe of Haliburton, and Haliburton had sent a tweet 3 days before that, or 2 weeks before that, said it must be the shoes, and then all of the slow-mo video of his Achilles, and you're looking right at the shoe. And look,
it could have been any shoe.
Of course, just with
the way that his hamstring was, and it was overtaxed, and I've always felt that way, even before the injuries started popping up. The NBA season's just so tedious, 82. I think they should shorten all seasons. I think baseball should be shortened too. But
No,
it's tough because
NFL.
of,
I want NFL playing 5 nights a week, 22-game schedule. Let's go. I can't get enough of it.
oh my God.
Full coverage of minicamp, please.
Even that's become tedious as well. But yes, of course they should shorten the season. The Indiana Pacers will not make the top 6 playoffs field next year, Buy it or Bull Bleep. So they'll be in the play-in round or worse.
Buy it.
Yeah.
They'll be right there 5-6.
Let me see here.
They still have really good players. I mean,
Yeah, let me just give this a quick look. Because, Boston might not be that good either.
I think the team. Here's the thing: list the teams that definitively you can say are going to be better than the Pacers for next season. I think you would say Cleveland.
Yeah,
I think you would
say New York,
Detroit.
Yeah,
New York.
but that's
And
probably it.
Milwaukee.
Definitively.
Yeah,
I don't know what Milwaukee's
they're
going to do.
they're probably in the same situation.
Yeah,
as
Milwaukee might make
right?
some changes themselves.
I think Orlando's going to be good.
Yeah, I think Orlando's going to be good too. And I don't know, maybe somebody else from that other half. God, I don't know. Miami, Chicago. The rest of the East is just kind of sad.
Yeah.
I think the Sixers are going to run it back.
The Wizards.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Are they still in the league?
What a disaster.
Atlanta?
What a disaster franchise there. And then I actually left the third one blank. Sorry. Sometimes I do that. Where I leave my computer and I'm thinking about something else and then I forget to ever come back to it.
Buy it or Bull-Schultz. Surprisingly, Niagara Falls was the best place you visited on your trip.
I love Boston, so it's Bull Bleep. And we did all the touristy stuff in Boston. We went all over. Back
Now,
Bay,
in Niagara
North
Falls,
End,
the water's
but-
still coming down, though, right?
Yeah, it's still
there.
it doesn't shut off. But it was cool. I mean, it's one of the wonders of the world, right? So of course you should go and see it once. I don't know if we would go back, but you want to go and see it once. It's a major tourist destination, so there's a lot of kitschiness with the shops. But we had a great time, and we were on the Ontario side. Everybody was super friendly. Little Canadian gift shops and cigar shops, and there was good food over there when you ventured out of the tourist area. We had a vehicle, so we were able to kind of go deeper into Ontario.
But you did do the Maid of the Mist.
And I had pickle poutine, which was unbelievable, really, really good if you like pickles. I know some people don't, but I did do Maid of the Mist on the New York side, and we did the state park that's over there, and it was beautiful. The scenes are breathtaking. Yeah. It's unbelievable, and it's a super easy drive.
I have a dumb question. It's been since I was a kid when I was in Niagara Falls. How far away from Niagara Falls can you hear them?
Oh, I didn't test it. I
mean, you can hear it, right?
Yeah, you can hear it. Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. But we were also in a very touristy area. So
they turned them off once.
A mini golf.
Did you know that?
Volcano going off and stuff. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like the 70s. They turned them off, and then they cleaned the rocks, and then they turned it back on. Seriously.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You're lying. You were around in the 70s, and I wasn't, so I can't fact check this.
Look it up.
Yeah. Was it like a Jimmy Carter gasoline conservation thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Okay.
No, I can't remember what it was. For some reason, there really was a reason, like for one day, where they damned Niagara Falls because they had to do something along some sort of, the barrel people. You get those every once in a while.
Yeah,
right?
no, I do remember. Well, I don't remember that, but I know of that story.
There's always some jackass that tries to do it in a rubber ball.
Yeah.
But yes, there was one time where they had to install lines or something, and they somehow damned it.
No, but it was a fun trip, and we really enjoyed it. It was a reminder of how big. I don't think people realize how big New York State is. It's huge.
Yes. Yeah.
It takes forever, and Buffalo is completely different from New York. I mean, Buffalo is basically a Midwestern city in a Northeast state.
Right. Did you get a little beaver magnet like the one I brought you back that one time?
No, I did not get the beaver.
That was my nickname in college.
Mm-hmm. Let's end on that. Chateau Kitchens, thank you to them for some reason sponsoring this show. Also, Bailey & Wood Financial Group, the presenting sponsors of this program, and our friends at Chili Water Brewing. Their tap room, 42nd and Boulevard, right next door to Hoagies and Hops. Like I said, steaks. Go get them right now. Buy one, get one 50 off this Tuesday only. But support them at any time, and hoagiesandhops.com as well for catering. For Vince, for Charlie, he's Jake. I'm Derek. We'll see you next time. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
At Bailey